mean, Urban Meyer or Bob Stoops. That's not going to happen. Realistically, the list right now from my interactions over the last 20 hours, I think it starts with Shane Beamer and Billy Napier. Those are the two guys. I don't think it'll get past those two guys. They're for different reasons. I think they're interesting hires. I think the important thing out there is I think the best coach to hire, the best coach is Hugh Freeze. I don't think they'll do that. I don't know if they will have a conversation with him. I don't know if they'll interview him and have to make that decision. Is he capable of running an SEC program again? I do think that if you wanted to hire the best guy who's realistic, and that's important, is realistic, I think Hugh Freeze would be the guy. But knowing South Carolina's administration, General Robert Caslin is the president. He comes from West Point. There's going to be a hire. I don't think that they'll do that. I don't think that they'll hire Hugh Freeze. I think it would be a home run hire. I don't think Hugh Freeze would do some of the things he did at Mississippi, both personally and in the football office in terms of recruiting players. But I think he would be a good hire. I just don't think it'll happen. I do think it'll come down to Billy Napier, who's at Louisiana Lafayette, who has ties, who's coached. This is his third year at Lafayette, and has certainly done some good things. He's been around the Southeastern Conference at Alabama. He's been in the state of South Carolina, both as a player at Furman University in the upstate and as a offensive coordinator under Dabo Swinney at Clemson. He's got a good track record. There's a lot of rumors at least a lot of people who I believe who've told me that he last year turned down Mississippi State and Arkansas because he felt this job would come open. He feels a little jaded after what happened at Clemson with Dabo Swinney. So I think he would be a very interesting hire. I really like Shane Beamer. I think South Carolina has got a lot of things that make it an attractive job, but I think that there are issues as well that coaches do not realize financially, recruiting, dealing with the board of trustees, dealing with expectations. I think there are a lot of things that people don't realize when they take the job. And then, you find out year or two in and you realize how difficult the job can be. And I say that because Shane Beamer's been an assistant here. He was here under Steve Spurrier. Even though he's never been an offensive or defensive coordinator, has no head coaching experience, I think that he would put together a really good staff. He understands the state. He understands the division, the SEC Eastern Division. He understands the conference. He understands and has seen the formula that Steve Spurrier used when South Carolina was at their best. I think those are the two guys. You mentioned Jamie Chadwell. His name is being rumored. I think he's probably third or fourth on the list. One name you didn't mention that I think you keep an eye on is Steve Sarkisian, the Alabama offensive coordinator. He's been mentioned prominently that he wants to get back into being a head coach. It's not a guy that I would be a big fan of. I don't like taking guys from Alabama where you're working with inferior talent. Jalen Waddle is the fastest, best receiver in college football. I know he's injured, but he certainly makes people look good. Mac Jones, Tua last year, Najee Harris. You don't have that at South Carolina. So I think you've got to go with a guy like Napier, a guy like Beamer. Again, Jamie Chadwell's interesting. Will Healy is an outside name, dark horse if they get down past a couple names, that is at Charlotte that's done some nice things. But I really think as of today, as we sit here less than 24 hours removed from the dismissal of Will Muschamp, that it will end up being Shane Beamer or Billy Napier, barring Hugh Freeze blowing them away in an interview process or the university feeling that he has changed some of his habits.
Offensive coordinator Mike Bobo runs the show for the rest of this season. He, of course, has a pretty high-level experience at Colorado State, not the Power Five, but a Mountain West team. So do you think he has any kind of a shot?
I do. Again, I think if Mike Bobo – look, from what I gather, Billy Napier or Shane Beamer are not going to say no. I know Shane Beamer wants the job. Billy Napier, I'm told, wants the job. So – what I'm about to say kind of contradicts the fact that I think that Mike Bobo has a shot. I don't think it'll get past those two guys. And I think Mike Bobo is further down the list. If he goes out and hypothetically beats, they've got Missouri, Georgia, and Kentucky are the next 3 games. And you can go to a bowl. You can go to a bowl. They can go to a bowl at 2-8, the way the NCAA is set up. If Mike Bobo were to go out and win those 3 games and maybe get the bowl opportunity, which means you have to extend the coaching search into January, let's say he wins those things by like a combined 180-30. Well, then all of a sudden it's so impressive, maybe you have to consider him. I think people want a break at the head coaching position. I think they want a break from the Will Muschamp era. I think Mike Bobo would be accepted as an offensive coordinator because he has done some good things this year, and he's got a commitment. South Carolina's got a commitment from a 5-star quarterback in the 2022 class, the next class, in Gunnar Stockton, who is one of the top quarterbacks in the nation, has ties to Mike Bobo's family. He is committed to South Carolina. He's not committed to the university. He's committed to the coach, to Mike Bobo. If Mike Bobo is not here, the general feeling is that Gunnar Stockton will not come to South Carolina. I don't know how true that is, but I think a lot of people would be okay with Mike Bobo being retained as the offensive coordinator. There's not going to be a lot of happy people, I think, that if Mike Bobo ends up being the full-time head coach.
Will, last question. You know the fan base. You take calls every day. You're ingrained. The amount of support, it's a rabid fan base. Packed house all the time. They have to be down in the dumps to have empty seats, but it's beyond the Vandys and the Missouris and the Kentuckys when it comes to support. It's right at the top of the list. If you look at college football and look at underachievers over the last 10 years, you're going to go right to Texas, USC to a certain extent, Miami. But if you look at college football history, South Carolina's never really won big. Spurrier had the 3 11-win seasons. That's big, finishing in the top 5. But competing for championships, that hasn't happened there. And I just got to think that it could happen there, that the players are in the region and the resources and the facilities and the fan base and the interest is there, that somebody could go in there and it's somewhat of a sleeping giant.
Yeah. The bigger question becomes, can you turn around a college football program in 2020? Last year I watched, I thought it was one of the best documentaries I ever watched, the Saturdays in the South that the SEC network did. And it made me realize, even for a school like a Mississippi or a Kentucky, programs that are not powerhouses, how much tradition they've had in their past being in the SEC. These moments, you got the Archie Manning, or you had Bear Bryant at Kentucky, and you got all these neat stories I watched. South Carolina doesn't have that. They don't have. They do have a great fan base. I don't think they have a fan base that knows how to win. I think what the perfect example of what I'm talking about when I talk about tradition is having expectations. Steve Spurrier came in and changed the mindset and the mentality of the South Carolina fan base to, hey, we can win. We saw it. We watched it. We saw South Carolina be competitive with the best teams in the country and finish in the top 5. And I don't think you see that. I don't think you see that under Will, or you didn't see it under Will Muschamp. You didn't see that mentality. You got to have a guy who comes in and basically says, look, hard work, it's great, but we can be competitive. A couple weeks ago, I was talking about the Texas A&M game. So, in Steve Spurrier's second year, Auburn came into town and was ranked number 2 in the country. Had Kenny Irons was the running back. They were number 2. And they ended up beating South Carolina 24-17. South Carolina dropped a touchdown pass over the middle that would have tied the game late in the ball game. And as the players walked off the field, they walked to their tunnel where they go into the locker room. Fans gathered at that tunnel and clapped. They clapped, and they were excited. And hey, our team was competitive with the number 2 team in the country. We took them late into the 4th quarter, and we almost beat them, and we clapped. Great effort, guys. And Steve Spurrier goes to the podium that night and goes, don't ever clap again for a loser. We lost the game. You don't clap for losers. Good effort means nothing when you lose the football game. And I cycle back to 2 weeks ago, and South Carolina gets beat 48-3, and nobody claps because it's 48-3. And Will Muschamp goes in and goes, wow, they played really hard. Effort wasn't the problem. there's your difference in mindset from a championship coach to whatever happened here in the last few years. Is it a sleeping giant? I don't know. There's a lot of positives, obviously, about this job. The facilities are top of the line. The fan base is incredible. The stadium continues to have upgrades. It's in a great recruiting footprint. But you need a guy who comes in, and that's kind of why I like Shane Beamer because of that mentality. But you need a guy who comes in and says, Florida, Georgia, be damned. We can beat those guys. I'm not afraid of those guys. That was Steve Spurrier. And we'll see if Billy Napier or Shane Beamer are those guys. If those are the two guys, one of those guys gets the job. But can this program be more than it's been in the course of history? Yes. They don't have the tradition, which is where I was going with that. They don't have some of the things that other programs have going for them. But can you turn a program around in 2020 and in the landscape of college football now? We will once again embark on the quest to find out over the next 5 years.
I took a joke from a commenter today because he figured Urban Meyer was right in line, because if you get Spurrier, you get Muschamp, you got that Florida to South Carolina connection. Why not?
People are terrified that they're going to jump Urban and go straight to Jim McElwain.
Yeah.
I did
hear that one too.
That's the fear.
Will Gunter, 107.5, The Game, and his show is the all-new Early Game. Will, I went straight to you, of course, South Carolina news. Had to go to the source. Appreciate it every time. Thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate it. Next time I'll get a haircut. I feel like I'm looking at myself now. I look shaggy, so I appreciate it. Glad you're doing well.
It's all good. It's what's inside here that we're looking for.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Appreciate that.